Hey everybody, what's up? It's Grace, and right now I'm going to be filming the most exciting video ever. That is on my top 3 favorite conspiracy theories. Lately, and also growing up, my mom's super into conspiracy theories. I've been watching a bunch of BuzzFeed Unsolved videos, a bunch of Shane Dawson, basically any kind of conspiracy video that I can get my hands on. Even if it's completely ridiculous, like that Avril Lavigne conspiracy theory that like people say that she died in 2007 and like somebody took over. I would like to say that I don't believe that, but I kind of do. Pretty much, I think there's a little bit of truth to everything. I think life is so much more fun if you kind of, even if it's silly, want to believe in stuff like that. On another note, Shane and Ryan from BuzzFeed Unsolved are my literal favorite people right now, and I would marry both of them. Anyway, let's get on with my top 3 favorite conspiracy theories. So talking about my first favorite conspiracy theory, that is the Mandela Effect. The Mandela Effect is probably the most famous out of all the conspiracy theories. Even if you're not a junkie conspiracy theorist, you probably know what the Mandela Effect is. And what the Mandela Effect is when someone has a memory or a personal kind of experience with something that never really existed or happened in this reality. It's like there's parallel realities within our world, kind of sort of thing, like different dimensions or something, and we're kind of slide in and out of them and we don't even know. The reason why I love this conspiracy theory so much is because it kind of blew my mind and had me shook. I watched Shane Dawson's video on it, and he had said, you know, what do you think? Is it... So basically what it is, the Mandela Effect is when you think you've heard something a certain way your whole life and then you're told that it's something different, but you specifically remember it's been this certain way, and so it's just kind of mind-boggling when you find out that it's not. So for example, he was talking about the Berenstein Bears, and if you didn't know, it's kind of this little cartoon that you watched growing up. I watched it, my niece and nephew watched it, and it's the Berenstein Bears. But apparently it's the Berenstein Bears with an A and not an E, which it sounds wrong, and I refuse to believe it. And I asked my mom this, and she said it was the Berenstein Bears, and my niece and nephew think it's the Berenstein Bears, but it is not. It is the Berenstein Bears. So the only logical explanation is we jump to another dimension, a parallel universe, and then we switched the E to the A. That's the only logical explanation here. Another of my favorites of the Mandela Effect is Sex and the City. I've always remembered of it as Sex and the City, and I watched Sex and the City at the young age, I don't know how old I was, in 6th grade. I started watching it in 6th grade. Very bad, don't watch it when you are in 6th grade. You're too young. But my mom let me watch it with her, and I remember that it was Sex in the City, and it made more sense that it was Sex in the City. I don't know why. But it is not, it is Sex and the City, which again, it's just one word, but it's weird and I don't like it. And the last and my most favorite is in Star Wars, when Luke says, or when Darth Vader says, "Luke, I am your father." But he never says that, he just says, "I am your father." And he doesn't even say it this dramatic way, he just says Luke, or he doesn't say Luke, he says, "I'm your father." He never says, "Luke, I am your father." But in so many cases, and even when I didn't even watch Star Wars, that's the most famous line that I remember, and it was never even in the movie. It's on a lot of toys, you know, like the pull string toys, just a very common quote that is used when you think of Star Wars. You kind of think of, "Luke, I am your father." And yet, it was never stated like that. Again, it's very silly, but it leaves you questioning. Now, my second favorite conspiracy theory is the Men in Black. When you think of Men in Black, you think of Will Smith, which, granted, those are really good movies. I liked those. But the Men in Black, the movie, is inspired by actual Men in Black. So the Men in Black, they only contact 2 types of people. Those who have seen a UFO or those who research UFOs. And they're described as having they don't have distinctive features. They have basic features, they don't have hair, they don't have eyebrows, their faces are expressionless. This conspiracy theory is probably just even thinking of like really tall, they're described as being like 7 feet tall and just being expressionless and cold and just creepy. And a lot of people say that they have just straight black eyes, there's no white, which is just creepy. And what they do, or what they're supposedly told to have done, is go to people who have either been in contact with UFOs or, again, research UFOs, and their tactic is to intimidate them, either to not research any longer or to not spread that information. Either with they are threatening their lives or the people that they love, something along those lines. Now, there's cases of people actually experiencing the Men in Black and having them talk to them, and for example, there's a case, 1949, 1947 with Harold Dahl. He was on his boat and he saw a saucer type thing in the sky and something had fallen, like a piece of debris. And the debris had fallen around him and it actually had killed his dog, which is sad, obviously, that sucks. And I would be super pissed at whatever alien type thing did that. But anyway, he took some of the debris with him, and because obviously you don't know what it is and it's interesting and you just want to take it. And he took photos to document the debris, and then later he said that the men in black came, and then he said that the photos had been fogged over. The man in black came and told him never to speak of what had happened again. Another case was with Robert Richardson in 1967 in Ohio. Richardson said he claimed to have seen a UFO while driving. However, on impact the object vanished. After he crashed, Richardson took home a small lump of the metal, kind of like with the previous man he took the debris. And then about a week later, he was visited by two men, you know, in black, and they asked if they could have the piece of metal that he had taken. Said that it was handed over to the authorities for testing. And then the men in black replied with, "If you want your wife to stay as pretty as she is, then you'd better get the metal back." And basically he was told to never speak of this again. And just, yes, this sounds extremely ridiculous, but it is so fun to actually think they exist. And me talking about the men in black, it makes me scared that they'll see this and be like, oh, she knows about us, let's use our scare tactics or our mind eraser things. Again, ridiculous, but I believe it, man. There was another case more recently because there's surveillance of two men in black walking into an office building of this guy who researches UFOs. I'm gonna insert the clip here. They just look gigantic, they look oddly tall, and they look expressionless and terrifying. I think that is legit documentation. If not, it is two very tall men who decided to pull a prank and be like, hey, these are the men in black. Either way, it's fun. Now, my last favorite conspiracy theory goes into aliens. I believe in aliens 100%, whether they are actual, like those tall gray aliens, green aliens, or if they just look like us and they're little hosts, or if they're just bacteria on other planets. I believe that there is life on other planets, because to think that we're the only living organisms in this universe is ridiculous. But more specifically is that aliens helped build the pyramids. Now, I know a lot of people don't believe this theory and they say that we don't give the Egyptians enough credit, which, yeah, it's a little bit true. But I still believe that the Egyptians are insanely brilliant. However, I believe that there must have been a higher knowledge or a higher understanding to be able to have built the pyramids. Give some examples on why I think this. The pyramids were built over 4,500 years ago, which was a time before wheels, a time before steel. The only sort of metal thing that they had was copper. Now, there's a lot of carvings of the pyramids. It's never told on how they made the pyramids. A lot of people said that it was made with ramps, but there was never any evidence to back this up. And again, to have been able to have ramps and at this time is still a large feat. Another thing that I find really interesting is that there's roughly around 2.5 million stones that help make up the pyramids. In order to have built the pyramids in around, because it took about 20 years for them to make, in order for it to have been made in that time span, it would have taken one person every 3 minutes to put a rock up, because the rocks were like 1.5 to 3 tons. Would have had to have worked a 10-hour workday every day for 20 years. Another thing that's really interesting is the math in which the pyramids are constructed. You divide the perimeter of the pyramid by the height, it equals pi to almost the exact digit, by like the 6th digit or something, which pi was not even a thing till thousands of years ahead. Approximately 2,273 years apart, which again is why I think there must have been some sort of higher understanding of the mind or something. Another thing is the Egyptian carvings in themselves. They look like modern day, there's like modern day helicopters or kind of like alien saucers. It's very strange, and even to kind of think what were they drawing or what were they carving at that time, it's like you can't really think of anything besides today. Aliens built the pyramids! Yes! Aliens did build the pyramids. Back me up, guys, because I kind of feel like I'm going crazy.
I did a whole PowerPoint presentation in high school on aliens building the pyramids.
Yeah, and man, they built them. And the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, this is not possible for unless Egyptians are aliens.
Either Egyptians are aliens or aliens help the Egyptians. It's the only logical explanation.
True.
Snicket, what do you think?
Haters will say it's fake.
Snicket says she built the
Haters
pyramids.
will say it's Photoshop.
Haters will say it's Photoshop.
But yeah, guys, the carvings that the Egyptians made, they're like modern day helicopters.
Yeah.
Which, you guys, come on. Even if you're the most, like, very skeptical, you kind of still gotta question, what were they thinking?
If it wasn't aliens, it was us from the future.
Yeah, it's time travel.
Oh, that's
And I do believe in time travel. Like, I believe in everything.
It's probably us from the future.
yeah.
We were like, we'll help you out.
I believe in time travel. There's a whole nother thing that I want to do on time travel. During World War II, there was this guy who was a pilot. I watched this documentary, but that's for another day. It's still very interesting.
Can I borrow this?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye. Long story made short, aliens for sure built the pyramids, for sure. Or it was as simple as water and sand and pushing a ramp. That's no fun to think about. Those were my 3 favorite conspiracy theories. They were probably all over the place because I'm not that great at constructing things. And also, I'm no expert on this. If you want to, you know, tell me more stuff, if you want to educate me further on these conspiracy theories, I would love to hear it. But aren't conspiracy theories just fun? Even if you don't believe them, they're so great. So I'm gonna sign off on this video with a question. Do you think the government is for our well-being, or they have another motive? What that means, I don't know. I just don't really trust the government. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this very wacky video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.